It truly is just awful. It's incomprehensible.
Authorities now say this American woman who vanished while sailing the Caribbean seas was raped before she and her husband were murdered and thrown overboard by three escaped criminals.
It is beyond horrific what the allegations are, and definitely those individuals who committed these offenses need to be brought to justice.
It's a tragic story Law&Crime has been following since the start, when on February 18th, all communication was cut off between this married couple and the rest of the world. 71-year-old Kathleen Brande and 66-year-old Ralph Hendry permanently lived aboard this yacht, the Simplicity. The pair sold their home in Virginia back in 2013 after Kathy retired from her career as a real estate agent. They sailed around the world together as Ralph worked from their yacht as a financial advisor. But when communication went dark in mid-February, their families knew something was off. The pair were last seen aboard Simplicity by a neighbor at a dock in Grenada. Days later, on February 21st, their boat was found about 80 miles from where it was last seen. Aboard, the ship had been ransacked, and there was a red substance that appeared to be blood. But Kathy and Ralph were nowhere to be found. Investigators now say these three men are responsible for the American couple's murders. According to criminal defense attorney Matthew Timpanek, they could be up against murder charges in the United States.
Well, definitely with this case, it's about whether international law versus the United States law. And we're trying to figure out what would apply in this case. Obviously, these individuals can be tried in Grenada, but most people do not know that they can also be tried in the United States as long as they are physically present in the United States. How you would do that is the Justice Department gets a extradition order bringing them to the United States to charge them with the same crimes.
Investigators say it was a group of escaped prisoners who hijacked the couple's catamaran and likely threw them overboard. Kathy and Ralph are now presumed to be dead, and their accused killers have been charged with murder. Authorities say all three men were from St. Andrew and had previously been arrested in connection to a violent robbery in December. They escaped from prison the last day Ralph and Kathy were seen alive. Officials identified the three men as 19-year-old Trayvon Robertson, who was unemployed at the time of the crime, 25-year-old farmer Abita Stanislaus, and 30-year-old sailor Ron Mitchell, who at the time of his arrest already faced charges of rape and attempted rape. Now Mitchell faces another rape charge, this time in the case of Kathy Brande. And now we have new information that the woman in this case, Kathy Brande, was raped. At least that's one of the allegations. Is that a possible charge that they could face in the United States as well?
Yes, it's definitely and it'd be an aggravating factor at that, because the thinking being with these types of cases, this is not just they were robbed and they took their yacht. They were kidnapped, she was raped, and then they were murdered and thrown overboard off their vessel. It is beyond horrific what the allegations are, and definitely those individuals who committed these offenses need to be brought to justice.
So far, investigators have not found Kathy or Ralph's bodies. Even still, they say Kathy was raped before her death. I'm also wondering how investigators would come to that determination without having her body.
What I can think of potentially is they made statements to the effect, confessions, if it were, because without a body and without being able to perform a rape kit, outside of an eyewitness who allegedly saw it or video footage from inside the boat, which we do not know is present, I have to think one of them made statements to that effect, confessing to the alleged crime.
The three suspects in this case were arrested not long after Simplicity was found. Timpanek believes their criminal history led investigators straight to them. How would investigators down in the Caribbean have tracked down these three people that they say are the suspects?
Well, definitely what you're looking for is individuals with past criminal histories. Very few people, when we're kind of into deviant behavior or behavior analysis science, talk about these types of cases. People do rarely go to murder and rape. Usually they have a violent crime history that escalates over time and eventually ends at murder and or other violent crimes. And that's definitely, I think, what you're going to see happen here. Burglaries, robberies, anything violent is usually a precursor for a much violent offense, which are in fact the allegations here.
So how would investigators actually track down these three people? I mean, we know that they're escaped prisoners. Could that have been a red flag? Since they had faced charges in the past, is it possible that DNA was collected on the boat?
The way they were able to find these individuals as fast as they were, given that this was a boat was found 80 miles from where they were actually found. I definitely think that they had DNA already on file and were able to match it to the individuals who allegedly committed these offenses. And if she put up any kind of fight, there would be definitely some kind of DNA potentially under her fingernails for defensive wounds, stuff like that, which would be a right place to find DNA evidence.
As the cases move forward, Tympanik says it's possible the suspects could be tried in multiple locations.
They could be tried in both countries, but I think the United States would want it they'd want the first crack at it. So if something didn't go their way, there would be another chance to do it in Grenada. But I don't see a scenario where the United States doesn't want to take this case.
Why would the U.S. want to take this case? Why would it be in their favor?
Well, because you have U.S. citizens abroad. Anytime U.S. citizens are harmed abroad, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has exclusive jurisdiction to investigate those crimes. If they make a determination who is the individuals at fault and who should be charged, they make a recommendation to the AUSA, the Assistant United States Attorney assigned to the case, who would then bring an indictment against those same charges. Murder and kidnapping are two of those charges under the statute where you can get jurisdiction in Grenada as well as the United States.
But for now, there's no real timetable of when that would happen.
It definitely take months unless they waive extradition. My thinking being is that they're going to try to fight extradition. But what we know under the Eunice decision is even though a crime was committed abroad, not in the United States, they can still be charged as such as long as they are physically present. So once they bring them, if they want to, the U.S. government, once they bring them back to the United States, they can formally indict them with these charges.
Wherever the case unfolds, it's the evidence collected on the yacht turned crime scene that will play a major role. One key piece of evidence we already know about, the blood found aboard. How would investigators make the leap from finding blood to then determining that they had both been murdered and thrown overboard?
Well, definitely one of the things with blood is if you find enough of it, you can determine how much an individual can survive on with loss of blood. If they found a ton of it, they could pretty safely assume that the individuals whose blood it is probably did not survive the alleged encounter, the attack, if it were.
While Kathy and Ralph's bodies have not yet been recovered, it's unlikely they're still alive. But is it possible that either of these two people, Kathy or Ralph, could still be alive? Their bodies haven't yet been found.
It's possible, but thinking as the publicity associated with this case, and it's become a worldwide news story, I can't help but think if they were still alive, one or either of them would have seen that and try to get information out to people that, hey, we're still alive. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's the case.
Tympanik says for such serious charges, the suspects could face the highest possible penalty. And what sort of sentence could they face? I know that they're up against murder and rape now.
I definitely think the death penalty would be in play, as it is the aggravating factor being murder, kidnapping, as well as aggravated sexual assault, all of which are aggravating offenses. And under the federal guidance, sentencing guidelines, they are ripe for capital punishment and the imposition of the death penalty in this case.
All three suspects made their first court appearance last week and are due back in court on March 27th. Reporting for Law&Crime, I'm Gillespie.